Hi everyone, this is Peter Ong of Rest Age Advisory. Welcome to episode 9 of Opportunities Unusual. Today we will cover a very important topic. How can you digitize your business smartly and successfully? You know, if you do this well, there are two large business benefits waiting for you. One, you should have substantive, significant efficiency gains. And two, you will have greater outreach to your customers and greater customer intimacy. Taken together, what does this mean? It means higher revenues, it means much lower costs, and of course, it means much larger profits. So how could we do this smartly and successfully? I will do today's sharing in 3 parts. Part 1, I will talk about the fact that the world has actually gotten even more digital in the last 2 or 3 months when most of the world has gone into lockdown. Part 2, I will share with you that the digitization journey is actually reasonably perilous, is fraught with difficulties, and that digitization is not easy, so you have to do it smartly and successfully, which will be what we will mainly cover for the rest of today's video. So part 3 is on, let's go, how do we digitize smartly and successfully? Let's start with part 1. The world just got more digital. What do we mean? When FinLab and the Rest Age Advisory decided to go on to this 9-part episode of Opportunities Unusual, this series, the world was having 1.5 million cases, and this is in early April. As I record this video, it's now mid-June. I kind of do one video every week, and the world has 8.5 million coronavirus or COVID-19 cases. In the midst of this pandemic, many governments have ordered many societies to have various forms of shutdown, and this has kind of forced business, forced the world, forced consumer behaviors to go more digital. So if the world was more digital last year, it's even more digital now. In episode 1, I talk about point number 1 of the 4 big changes. The world is getting more digital. There's no running from it. And companies will ignore digitization at your own business's peril. So how can we go about this smartly and successfully? Since FinLab has asked me to do these videos, a lot of my friends have asked me, Pete, how could you get a production crew in your home when even for MediaCorp, which is Singapore's broadcasting agency, that's not allowed? And I told them, actually there's no production crew. It's just 2 tripods, one borrowed from my brother-in-law and one borrowed from my neighbor next door, and my iPhone and my son's Joshua's iPhone. So 2 tripods, 2 iPhones, one at a straight 90-degree angle, one at a side 45-degree or 40-degree angle, and that's it. I've learned to become a digital professional as well, to some extent. So the production crew is me, myself, and I. Can't resist doing that joke. It then goes on, of course, to the FinLab production crew, and then it goes on to the editing and the cuts. It goes on to the subtitling and the putting in of the beautiful graphics and the figures that you see, all the way to the live streaming and then the on-demand availability of these videos. Me, a digital novice, have kind of leveled up by 2 or 3 berries in this lockdown process. I also want to share with you how the world just got more digital mean in terms of a happy story. One of my clients in Thailand is what you call a digital native. They created their business primarily, almost entirely on a digital platform. And she shared with me that other than the normal products and services which they sell online digitally, because the whole of Thailand is in some level of a lockdown and all the retail malls are closed, she could even use her platform to sell fruits, which they don't sell. And she said never in her life would she imagine that she will make decent revenue and profits and get market share and customer engagement by selling, guess, durians. Okay, so the world just got more digital. You have to decide how you want to play in this digital world, and you will miss this digitization realm at your business's own peril. Now let me move on to part 2. Digitization is not easy. In a HBR article written in March 2019, it stated some astonishing figures. In the year 2018, companies across the world have invested or have spent 1.3 trillion US dollars on digital transformation initiatives. The authors, based on various estimates and surveys, believe that of these 1.3 trillion US dollars that's been invested, about 900 billion has gone on to waste. Okay, 900 billion US dollars has been wasted because of all the digital transformation projects for legacy companies. For legacy companies that have taken place, up to 70% of such projects fail or did not achieve their too large business outcomes of significant efficiency gains or much greater customer outreach, customer intimacy, giving us higher revenues, lower costs, and therefore much larger bottom line profits. If the journey is so perilous, how can we do this well? Now let me go on to the meat of today's video, which is on let's go. How do we digitize smartly and successfully? Here again, I will break up my sharing into 3 parts. Part 1, which I'll go right into this moment, is to avoid 3 common mistakes. The first mistake is that you think that digitization is all about technology. Actually, this digitization is all about humans. So if you think it's all about technology, you got to kind of unwind that, because it's all about humans. It's about the talents and the teams in your organization able to select, able to implement, and able to reap the rewards of the technology and tools for digitization which you put in place. So one big human factor is your teams, your talents able to select, implement, and reap the rewards of the technology and tools that you put in place. The second important thing you have to think about is mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 comes something like this. It's not about the cheapest or the most comprehensive digital solution you can find. We want both. We want cheap and we want the most comprehensive. It's actually not about that. It's about the platform and the solution that will give the best user interface, best customer experience, and the highest level of convenience to your people and to your customers. You must bear in mind at this stage that as the world is getting more digital, as every company is barreling down digitization, it will get harder to find talents, and your efforts for your company could be a small drop in a mighty ocean. So all the more, you need to avoid this mistake and you need to do digitization well. It's all about convenience, user interface, stickiness with your customers, and you must know that they are spoiled by the many good digitized companies and products out there. The third mistake you have to avoid is to think that this is no more than a simple complementary add-on to your bricks and mortar business. I would ask you to sense-make deeper, think about your business model better, and treat it like an exponential multiplier to your business. How could you use digitization to give you an immense reach, a much larger efficiency than you have ever imagined? Instead of an add-on, think about it as a multiplier. Now let's go on to the next part in Let's Digitize Smartly and Successfully. Part number 2 in this area, after avoiding the 3 common mistakes, is to assemble the right team. Everything starts from the assembly of your team, the right behaviors of your team members, the right skill sets, the right domain expertise, and the right teaming, collaborative, co-creating spirit that they have. Depending on the size of your company, I will offer you some perspectives. I think there are 5 critical skills that you definitely want in your team. And if your company is large enough to give you talents in those 5 areas, you must have all 5. The first is to look for a change architect or change master, someone who has the ability to go big picture, someone who has the ability to go details to the point that they need to, someone who has the ability to be a creative thinker and a problem solver, and someone who has deep, broad, good experience on change management. I would pick that as one of the skill sets you want. Then laterally to that would be another skill set called project management. This would be the people who could manage budgets, they could manage initiatives, they could manage tasks, they could manage the delivery of outputs. After that, because digitization needs certain domain knowledge, I would look for technology skill sets and data skill sets. Technology skill sets and data skill sets, because everything must flow and your data must give you insight. And finally, because this will mean some level of shift in how processes happen within your organization and with your customer, I will look for some process excellence people. So to recap for you, the right skills and the right people to have on your team, depending on the size of your organization, you want to look for change mastery, you want to look for project management, you want to look for technology and data, combining that to give you insight, and you want to look for process excellence. Finally, because, and you have heard me mention across my many videos, that we need to prioritize and don't do a big list of everything out there. You therefore would want to focus your digitization on the area of your greatest need. Remember episode 7, I talk about products and services, I talk about customer segments, and I talk about access channels. Depending on where your greatest need is, perhaps is to reach a new expanded customer segment, perhaps is to have a new delivery platform or access channel, perhaps is to get your products and services to your customers in a more seamless, holistic fashion. Wherever your greatest need, look for domain expertise there and inject that domain expertise into the right team. Okay, so part 2 to let's digitize smartly and successfully is to assemble the right team. Now let's go on to part 3. Part 3, as the business leader, as the owner operator, I would suggest that you support and steer your team for success. How do you do that? I offer you 6 simple to-dos. But before I do that, let me share with you an analogy. Suppose that your country wants to win the World Cup and has very good players who are playing in clubs all across the world. When you bring them together, do you need to train them to function well as your country's team? They might be alpha players, very good A players, playing in clubs all over the world, but do you think you need to bring them together and let them train together, get familiarized with each other, built and born and built together such that they could win the World Cup? Or if you're thinking of a bomb disposal squad, does the squad needs to train together a lot of the times? Your answer is likely to be yes. So step number 1 is bond and build the team. Step number 2 is to teach your team carefully curated, carefully configured the right change management techniques, which includes the language, the skill sets, the habits, and the behaviors. Pull them to a common place and teach them this common lingo, common language, common habits and behaviors, skill sets that will help them be successful. Point number 3 is to remember episode 8 where I share with you the 9 E's model. of Rest Age Advisory for Successful Change Management. Pick a good change management model. I'll be honored if you pick the 9Es model, but pick a good change management model and let your team take the model through. Tell them, do not rush, because rush might give us only a false sense of speed. Take every step in the model. If you are doing the 9Es model, take every E seriously. Do not skip any of the E's, and to diligently take it through. If you do that, I can assure you that if you use the 9Es model, your team is bulletproof to any blind spot that change management may have. And they would be able to work together, have the right language, and have the right skill sets and behaviors for success. So that's point number 3. Use a good model and take it all the way through. Point number 4, because strategic projects like digitization takes a fair amount of elapsed time for you to get success, I would suggest that you celebrate small successes and milestones along the way. Keep the morale, keep the motivation of your team, keep the vitamin E of your team really strong, such that they are raring to go and they are rushing forward to bring your company in the right direction. And for them to do that, they must feel recognized, they must feel rewarded, and we must celebrate the successes and the milestones. So that's point number 4. Point number 5 is in 2 parts. Be there for your team. Don't be an absent leader. Don't assign to your team and just let them have free run with no oversight. Support and steer your team means that you need to be there for them, and you need to listen to them. You need to meet them every once in a while, and you need to help them remove barriers. So point number 5 is be there for your team, remove barriers for that obstructs change management's progress if need be. Finally, point number 6 for you, which has been recounted in a story in one of the episodes, would be when you find the right people, you've allocated resources to the project, you are personally supporting and steering the team. Always ask them every once in a while, how could I, as the leader, best support you for success? So there you have it. If we want to digitize smartly and successfully, you avoid the 3 common mistakes which I shared with you. You assemble the right team, and then you support and you steer the team for success. Now I'm going to move on to close this entire series of Opportunities Unusual, and of course also to close today's episode 9. I want to say that it's a privilege and pleasure to journey with you, and that I hope you found something that you can remember, something useful for you, your teams, and your business, something that you are inspired by, something that you are motivated to do again. And to that, I just want to share with you a WhatsApp message I received across just after midnight. So it's actually early this morning. At this time, when I record episode 9, we have just seen the live stream of episode 4, which is on the vitamin E levels of your organization and how to raise that. So SME owner, operator, also a good friend whom I've known for about 1.5 decades, for about 15 years, WhatsApp me a very long message. This is after midnight. And he mentioned that, Pete, you have inspired me to learn, relearn, unlearn again. And I feel energized even though I'm in my mid to late 50s. I feel really energized. And one of the takeaways I had from your video is the sense-making one, where you were talking about sense-making accurately and confidently. And I decided to do that for my company. And I'm happy to tell you that we are embarking on digitization phase 2. So like many of the businesses out there, if you're a legacy business and have grown up from long ago, that means your business is more than 10, 20, maybe even beyond 25 years, you would have a static, perhaps a rather static website, and that's your digitization phase 1. he's excited to get his team to do digitization phase 2. The team is going for social media related training and all sorts, and he's learning new things again. So I'm really happy that it has touched my friend's heart, this series, and I hope that it touches yours as well. I had originally wanted to do bite-sized videos that are 10 to 15 minutes long, but I do know that some of the episodes go on to about 21 minutes, and the change management one will probably hit 25-26 minutes. So taken collectively, it would be between 170 to 180 minutes. All these 9 episodes stacked together. And if you put them together and you watch them back to back, I don't think you will, but if you watch them back to back, it would be longer than the movie I talked about in episode 1, one of my favorites called The Darkest Hour. And it would be just as long as another one of my favorites released in 1972 by Francis Ford Coppola called The Godfather, which is about 177 minutes long. So this labor of love has gone on to about 170 to 180 minutes. The 9 episodes taken together, I hope you enjoy them and you would continuously view them and get refreshed on them. Finally, I want to share with you and to inspire you one last time. I started work in 1994. I was born in 1969. And after a 4-year degree in Singapore, you have to do 2.5 years of national service at my time. The internet was at its infancy stage. When I started work, the World Wide Web in 1994 just started. And you'll be surprised, email technology probably happened in force only from 1995 or 1996. Although nascent infancy stages, baby steps of email was there when I started work. Now it's 2020, and in your smartphone holds the technology that is more than what took the astronauts to the moon in NASA in 1969. So the technology in your smartphone is more than NASA added together in 1969, and that took man to the moon, right? So the world changes at a miraculous pace, and change management, leadership of change must be part of your DNA. You will transform again, you will learn, you will unlearn, you will relearn. This is one of the most essential skills to help your business go beyond 15 years. Remember the episode where I told you most businesses last no more than 15 years. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And this series has been done, when I created it, I was thinking this old saying of, if you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, you go together. So it's to help journey together with us in this crisis management time. And if I've never met you before and you watch this video, I hope one day to meet you in person and to say the words to you, like many of my clients, I say to them, let's do some great things together. So thank you very much. This is Peter Ong of Rested Age Advisory, and together with my partner FinLab, we sign off. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.